Hey, welcome to my Blackwing Lair tanking guide. We're going to go over all the nitty gritty, the positioning of the bosses, and worst case scenarios, because sometimes these bosses knock people around, how to reposition them, how to salvage, prevent a wipe, that kind of thing. What I'm not going to be going over is rotation. I'm not going to be covering gear. I'm not going to be covering those kind of tanking basics because I've already made other videos for those, so check that out. I've already made a video on essentially what your previous gear is going to be going into Blackwing Lair and the gear you're going to want to get from Blackwing Lair. I've made a full tank guide and I'm going to include a couple clips from that tank guide into this video from tanking Blackwing Lair bosses and commentation on them, but I'm also going to add to that. So some old information and some new information in this video, but we're going to go over every single boss. I found some good clips of things going wrong and how to kind of deal with it. We'll go over how to stance, Nefarian, and all that kind of stuff. Your openers, what for Veil, and etc. So the footage I'm using is warriors in Nax level gear, good gear, right? But my warrior on fresh with full world buffs and a flask of the Titans has the same health and essentially the same stats, just a little bit less armor than the Nax geared warrior. So what you're seeing, even though it's Nax gear, it's more or less this similar or the same to what a world buffed warrior is going to be going into Blackwing Lair on fresh. All right, so we're going into Razor Gore here. I'm going to be mind controlling the eggs, but you could have literally anyone do it. When you click the orb, just click it once. If you double click it, you're going to cancel out and you've got a cooldown. You'll not be able to use it again. So the pet bar on the right there, I just move around, then I click it. I could use the keybind, but it's super chill. You've got a long cooldown, so it's a very relaxed thing to be doing. One thing that's important to keep in mind is the duration remaining on the channeling. So you see, I was like, oh, the channel duration's low. I'm going to run away. So when it breaks, the boss is running towards me right now. You see the boss is running towards me, but then I click the orb again and I, regain control. So if ever you need to pick the boss up or whatever, you just click the orb. And if you ever want to drop it, the easiest way, I think, is just type /dance. When your character dances, it drops the mind control. So anyways, I'm finishing this up, going to break all these eggs. Like I said, you could have anyone do this job for the first 29 eggs. But then the person who breaks the 30th egg is going to have insane mind control aggro. And so you'd have the main tank or the off tank break that final egg. The person who, because I'm gonna be breaking the final egg very shortly here. You need a second highest threat tank to be chasing. So that could be the main tank who isn't breaking this, but in case I broke it, I have all the threat. You see my threat is just no one will ever pass me before the boss dies. But when the boss does conflagrate, see I have that conflagration debuff. I'm doing damage to people, and I'm also kind of running around in circles. You can see the tank there, he has a FAP on. That's useful because the boss does stun. But then the conflag wears off, and I get the aggro again, and the boss is dead. When talking to Veil, you can see I stand behind the boss to talk to him. That's just so that when I go in my tank position, I attack from the back for the first hit, but it usually doesn't matter that much. All right, before I show you footage of me tanking Veil, it's really important, I think, to talk about this fight because it's a very unique fight. The boss starts at 30%, and you have nearly unlimited rage because of Essence of the Red giving you 20 rage per second. So this is me tanking on Malik, my warrior with Thunder Fury. I'm doing 754 DPS. I'm going to import this log to this GitHub, and what we see here is that my threat, just no one ever gets close to me. And as a result, we can see Heroic Strike. Let me just scroll up a touch. Heroic Strike, huge for threat. The majority of my threat comes from Heroic Strike, partially because it just does a lot of threat, period. But it's also a lot of damage, so. And then the melee, those are just mostly my, my offhand swings. Because I have unlimited rage, I'm just spamming Heroic Strike on cooldown. Or not cooldown, but just every melee swing. I must have somehow fat-fingered Rend. What is going on here? Just pretend you never saw that. Don't Rend on bosses. Pretend you never saw that. Oh my god. Call Me Shreds is my other warrior. He's doing 745 DPS, which is like almost the same there. And you can see here, same thing. I'm just going up. I'm not sure why it says 0.8 threat modifier there. But anyways, maybe got confused. Maybe it's because the fight started when I was in Berserker stance. That's what happened. Okay. Now this is a different one. This is where I'm going to be executing, right? Because that's the interesting thing about this boss. Here I am. First of all, these three guys have world buffs popped. Like absolute animals. So like how am I going to hold threat against these people? I'm going to be unleashing these full rage bar executes. Execute is the majority of my damage there. And I'm doing 1400 DPS. Double the DPS that I do normally. So I don't want to be going over too much with the threat modifiers, but when I'm in defensive stance, I have a 1.49 threat modifier. If you're in battle stance, you have a 0.8 threat modifier. These guys are in battle stance with salve, or Berserker stance, battle stance with salve, so you have a 0.56 threat modifier. Execute, when you use execute, it has a 1.25 threat modifier. So even when you're in Berserker stance, it does more threat than your other abilities. So I may not be in defensive stance, but I am doing I am attacking at 1.25% threat modifier instead of 1.49. So it's a less threat modifier, but you can see here where I start executing, and I'm just unloading these huge executes, and like they don't even come close to me. It's just like once I start executing, it's just like like to infinity and beyond. It's definitely a parse strategy. I don't think you necessarily have to do this. Let's just take a quick look at how much threat the executes are doing. So execute is doing 715 threat per second, which is fairly similar to the Heroic Strike threat. If you look at here, like the Heroic Strike threat is very similar. So I wouldn't say this is necessarily better, but it's one way to do it. You can go battle stance and execute, do good threat. It's more of a parse thing. Anyways, I just wanted to share that. All right, so this is the footage where I'm going to be executing. The boss is going to start in like 10 seconds. I'm going to get an improved lay on hands. I'm going to stone shield. I'm in Berserker stance right now because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop recklessness, defensive stance, blood rage, death wish before the boss starts. So I'm not GCD locked, and someone hits it before I can. But I'm slamming bloodthirst. I'm spamming Heroic Strike. The moment it goes to 20%, I say, fuck it. Let's go battle stance. And I'm just executing. Every time I execute, it's like nearly a full bar rage. It's 2,000 to 4,000 damage. I have a dodge on the execute, but it's just, freaking parry execute. But it's fun. And that's how you do it. If you ever have two of these hatchers aggroed like we do, it's important to have the off tank pull it away. So you see how the bear druid is taunting it away? That way you don't have them double stacked because they're going to be putting a stacking dot on the raid. So keep them separate. All right, Broodlord Lash Slayer. We're going to get in the cubby and get ready, although we are going to have a ninja pull here if someone gets too close. It's very important to have that suppressors all down first so the people get in position easily. And you'll see where I pull it. I'm going to keep my back to the wall because the boss doesn't knock back. But here, the boss gets pulled. I'm going to put a shield on. And I also just got a pre-shield there. I'm like telling people, don't attack. Just let me pick it up. Of course, no one ever listens to me. But in a situation like that, it's very easy for parry hasting. And, the healers are moving. We see that Pally over there who's never moved, which is good because they're healing me while the other healers move. Anyways, I keep my back to the wall, pump and threat here. The boss frequently does a threat reduction on me. Sometimes the off tank is going to take over and then I need to catch up, and so sometimes it goes back and forth on tanks, but I hold it the whole time, just slamming heroic strikes and bloodthirst and revenge. He hits hard. Be ready to last stand. He can one-shot you, man. Make sure you have a stone shield. I figure I'll commentate on a lab pack here. So we're going to pull back and line of sight. Ideally, hunters are going to help pull some of these mobs and have aggro on the mobs that the warriors need, especially the warlocks, because they like to just stand back there. So I have to go in here deep. I got to taunt this. I got to dodge these freaking dynamites, and I have to line of sight it myself. Sometimes you have to do that as the tank. You got to do those risky things. A couple people die here. It's people have to watch out for the dynamites and such. Okay, so I'm going to show the fire mob positioning. I'm just getting my gear set up, but you see I have like way more than the resistance cap that's needed. It's very easy to get the resistance when you have the Ubers buff. I'm going to stand where I was right there. This is where the healers stand. They can see me, but they can't see the boss, so they won't get stacked. So I stand here. The boss is in the doorway. You'll see when I'm tanking. This is where the off tanks taunt and where the off tanks hide, because we don't want the off tanks to build up stacks. Then they just run in when it's time to taunt for the wing buffet. They stand there and taunt. It's okay to have two tanks taunt, if maybe there's a resist or something. Okay, so here comes Fire Maw. I have a shield on. Sometimes I can get a shot off with my crossbow, but I'll just like Blood Rage and start attacking. I'm going to pull back and then run through the boss and just back up enough so that the the healers can see me. And some of these people have world buffs, so I'm popping Death Wish, but quite often you don't need to pop Death Wish. And quite often I can wear a shield the whole fight. Here comes the off tanks to taunt. I always step a little bit to the left. Just I don't want to take the wing buffet just in case, and then the boss is back on me. If I'm taunting as an off tank, I like to wear a shield just because the healers might be slow to react to healing you. And so, anyways, what we're doing here is like I've got a huge threat lead. I've put a shield on. I'm chilling. If I need to, if shit hits the fan, I can last stand. I can life-giving gem. I could shield wall if need be. There's the taunt. I stop attacking or just auto attack because I don't want to pull threat back. It could happen. And then if I pull threat back, I could get launched backwards. If ever you get launched backwards, you just got to stand there like 20 feet back. The boss will be like way back, like here or wherever. And then you're just going to have to say like, healers, just heal me. You have to wait for the breath. And then once the breath goes out, you can pull the boss towards the raid and reposition it. You don't want to pull the boss and face it to the raid when you don't know when the breath is going to go out. Does that make sense? Good. Easy. All right, knowing how to tank these three mobs is important. They can be really annoying to tank. The hunter is going to pull the one marked skull, the far left one, or else you get the goblin with it. We don't have a hunter, so our mage is doing it, and he's going to actually die because he's going to unload in and it's fire vulnerability. But what we're going to do is FAP and spread them out left to right because the boss can patrol down, and we don't want to be standing near that ramp. So anyways, yeah, that mage dies. That's what happened to mages. They're made of paper, but we're just going to tank them. You see how it's spread out left and right and not near that ramp back there. And sometimes they make the tanks spin. Tanks can't generate much threat. I'm just standing in the raid as the goalie. All right, so for the next dragon, of course, you want to also have a cloak on, your Oni cloak. I'm going to stand on the wall here. Then the off tank is going to stand on this wall here. and I wear a shield when I pull the boss. Usually I will ask for a priest shield, but maybe I forgot, or maybe the priest didn't do it. I don't remember. But I'm going to try and get a shot off. It might not work. Sometimes the boss aggroes you. But I want to pull back and stay close to the boss, because the boss can build up thrash charges. And if you get away from the boss and then he's not attacking for a while, he might, when he gets to you, hit you like so many times you just die instantly. You can see I'm healing the boss for 25,000 there. It's because I have a debuff on me, and that's when you want to taunt. Now I do make a mistake at some point in the fight here, and so we'll see that here. Just so you don't make that mistake. I was just maybe zoned out or not paying attention to the timers. But basically, what I'm going to accidentally do is, right now, the other tank is going to get the debuff on them. And I'm going to taunt off. But you can see that the wing buffet timer, it's about ready to happen. And so the debuff is going to go on the other dude. And so I taunt as the wing buffet goes out, and so it really messed up the positioning there, because I taunted by accident right as the wind buffet was going to go out. And when you taunt, there's 3 seconds where the boss is fixated on you, and so he chased me when I was knocked in the air. That's dangerous. This is a fight where sometimes the tanks get knocked around and boss moves kind of crazy like this. If that's the case, we're going to kind of straighten him out. The breath happened, and so I pulled him along the wall. You see how I pulled him there and I got him back in position once the breath was out. I'm not going to move him in any capacity if he hasn't done a breath. Getting ready to pull the next boss. You only need 1 off tank for this one, just for the to taunt and take the wing buffets. I can quite often get 2 shots off on this boss, just because of the line of sighting of the platform. I can usually shoot here, then go down, and the boss kind of sometimes does this weird padding. But anyways, you know, I have a shield on just like before. I'm still concerned about those thrash charges, but once I'm kind of in position, I'll dual wield and just pump threat. And as long as the off tank taunts on the wing buffets, you're good to go. But it doesn't always happen, and so I'm going to show you a clip of how to tank when the off tank is not taunting. So they taunt, they take the wing buffet, and then it's back on me, no problem. But what if they don't taunt? Well, I'm going to show you what to do. Anyways, that's really all there is to it. Sometimes I like to spin these bosses just for good luck. The raiders, you know, the stream, they like it, blah, 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 blah. It's a superstitious thing. So you might see me spin a boss here. I don't remember, but yeah, I might give it a quick little spin, but I only do it when I know that it's not going to breathe fire. You just need the hunters to trank. Other than that, it's pretty much tank and spank. And I included this clip because the druid, he's not taunting the wing buffet. So this is basically me showing you how to single tank this fight. Normally you'd have someone taunt off, but you're going to see here, he's not really going to taunt, and the wing buffet's going to go on me. And what you need to do is the second the wing buffet goes on you, you taunt. So watch, I'm going to taunt here because he's not taunting. So as he casts it on me, I taunt because the guy's not taunting. All right, so here's Chromag. I've got some rage from the previous pull, and I'll just do like a 3, 2, 1, hit the lever. When the door opens, I'm going to blood rage, and I kind of have a bad opener, but then I kind of just drag it a little bit to the right, get it into position. If I don't have any rage whatsoever, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Berserker stance. I'm going to use Zerker Rage, so when I take damage, I get more rage. I'm going to do Zerker Rage, defensive stance, and then have them open the gate and use my Blood Rage. This fight doesn't have time lapse, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a clip of how to deal with time lapse. Basically, you stand here. you have the healers see you, but not the boss, just like Firemaw. And the melee line of sight, it's really tank and spake. There can be hard hits during when he enrages, so the hunter needs to trank. At 20%, he's gonna have a different perma enrage, and so he can have his 20% enrage plus his normal enrage that needs to get tranked. And so during those times, it can be a bit risky. Quite often, you'll get a good threat lead, and you just put a shield on. There's no need to dual wield when threat is not an issue. Now, sometimes this boss gets out of position, so we're going to show you how to position this boss, because otherwise it's pretty much a tank and spank. The only time someone's going to pull aggro is at the very beginning if there's a crazy vulnerability or something and a giant ignite. They just have to hold their dick. I'm going to show you how. I call it walking the dog because, you know, Cro-Mag's, I guess, a big dragon dog. So there's going to be a time lapse. With time lapse, it's going to go on whoever's the highest threat that time lapse didn't hit. So the off tank, for example, would want to run out of line of sight. But anyways, it went on the mage because they were a higher threat. And so now we're just getting the boss back in position here. Again, once you have good threat, like I just put a shield on for this fight. Alright, so real quick, if you wipe on Cro-Mag, he's no longer going to be in the cage, right? He's going to be essentially standing right here. And even where I'm standing right now, I'll probably aggro him. He has a big aggro range. And so what the raid's going to do is take a big wide turn, be hanging out along the wall here. All the healers and casters will be here. And then as the tank, I'm going to move here. The boss will run towards me. I'll be standing right here in line of sight of the healers, but the healers can't see the boss, therefore they don't get hit by the breaths. The melee are going to be hiding behind when a breath happens, and that's how you tank if you wipe. Hopefully you don't, but it happens. These days, most groups just group everything up at the throne here, but you can do the 2 door strat as was done in the old days. Both work just fine. And around when it says 3 ads left, I'm going to run over. Of course, you need to have your cloak on. We're going to run over. I've got a full stack of rage. If you have a life-giving gem, sure, you could use it, but I'm just using double threat trinkets because some people have world buffs. Life-giving gem is great for the warrior call, as is last stand. Sometimes there can be big healing aggro, and he just goes for the healer, so you just gotta be ready to slam like a Bloodthirst Heroic Strike. I like how the off tanks are on that other side. You see, on the top right corner of the screen, the off tanks are there chasing threat. That way, if I die, the boss doesn't face the raid, or if I get sheeped. So we're going to actually get a mage call pretty shortly here, and you'll see exactly why you want to have this done. Now, I'll show you how to stance because I have Fear Ward here, but I'll show you a clip where I stance. But anytime now, I'm going to get turned into a maggot, I think, and it's going to face the tank instead of the raid. Anytime now. Yep, so he brings it into position. I get cleanse. You also need to get decurse periodically because it's like a healing reduction. But that's Nefarian. Alright, so right now I'm just watching the Bellowing Roar cooldown timer. So it's about to be available to be used. And when I see the cast bar, I'm going to hit Zerker Rage. We're just waiting. And here it comes. If you enjoyed the video, drop me a sub and a comment. Catch me live on my Twitch channel, Dwarf Lord TV, to connect with me or say hi to me in game on any of my characters. Dwarf Lord out.
And they say that the Dwarf Lord could save us. I'm not gonna pave here and wait. I'll hold on to the beard of the Dwarf Lord. Watch as we heroic leap away.